You are listening to Why Such a Fuss podcast, sponsored by CVG Solutions, with your host, Cristina Vanini-Goodchild, and guests.
A warm welcome to James Robson, Data Protection Officer and Speaker, who joins us today. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you very much, Cristina.
Right, now let's get to it straight away because it's a big, long discussion here. The topic is quite hot on the press, but also quite complex. So, is digital ID a good or bad idea? What do you think?
Yeah, just throw the easiest question at me. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? It is so contentious. And I don't think it's for me just to go yes or no. I think there are things with a digital ID that could be very, very useful for people and in fact enhance people's lives. I think there's also the argument where there are things with the digital ID, if it's not done in the right way, in lots of things that we understand in the data protection world, then it could have harms to people as well. And there's plenty of voices on both sides. More probably on the harms and concerns and worry around something like a digital ID. I would like to think that the government are smart enough and the government departments are smart enough to make something that would protect people and not cause harms and do it in a way that will improve their lives. So that's the side I'm leaning on because I think that there is a need. There's a need for digital ID.
Yes, I mean, in Italy, obviously, I come from Italy. We've had ID. I don't know if it's digital now. I don't think it is, but when I was living there, we had an ID card. You sort of you get that before you get the passport. And everybody has that. And as far as I know, it goes back years and years and years. My parents, my grandparents, they had it. So I never really, it kind of, you're using it for, you carry it with you all the time. But it's, as far as I know, it's not digital. So it would not have, the benefit that you're talking about in terms of, having one place where you can access, various benefits or services, etc. Doesn't mean that they can't do it, but as far as I know at the moment it doesn't do that. I see the sort of the benefit, the potential that could give to an individual. My concern is currently the data or the systems that the governments are using are not robust, are not mature enough. It's not just the system, the people that are working with those systems, or the civil servants, if you want, I don't have that maturity in terms of how, the maturity that you and I have to a degree in terms of how to respect the data, the ethics, the moral behind it, to actually then use it in the way that is appropriate. Do you see what I'm getting at?
I do. I think there are a lot of incredible people that work in the civil service that do it for ethical reasons and altruistic reasons as well. They want to do good by people by, delivering something that can help lives. So I don't necessarily consign to this idea that people who work in the civil service just don't have the moral standards to be able to use the data in the right way. And I think there's a confusion with ID, digital ID, and databases. And I think that comes up a lot. And it's been difficult for people to understand the difference between having a kind of an access passport to the data in a database and the ability for that digital ID to hold all that data. That's a completely different thing. That's more of like your own digital wallet that will hold all that data. But I think that part is probably too difficult to put together very easily because you need all these feeds and all this information being copied from all of these databases because our data is held by most of those databases in some capacity or another. But here's the thing, we don't know about it. We're not aware of that. Wouldn't it be really great to have a digital ID but with just a marker to say your data is in these locations, not your data is being brought together in some massive data lake, data warehouse, which could be hacked or used by someone for whatever purposes, or to be surveilled upon. Now, you kind of flip into the argument where, well, if you have this access, this ability through this sort of digital handshake, through this kind of open door access because of the ID, then a government less better than the one we currently have could theoretically use it for nefarious means, for their benefit in the wrong way. People do cite Nazi Germany as one of the risk factors in having a digital ID, and to catastrophic effect. But I just don't think we're in that age that any government in the UK would do that or necessarily could do that. I think that there are too many safeguards in place, especially people like me and you that would probably jump in immediately and say, our data protection impact assessment, our DPIA, our risk assessment says, no, we are not doing this because it will cause harm to people. And to be fair, to the likes of the Information Commissioner's Office, their focus is on human harms. Will it do harm? And then, trust me, they do chirp up. They do take action, and they do push out fines based on the potential for harm coming to people, actual harms. So I think we're in that world where I truly think some sort of access passport to your data is required, but without the ability for the state to be able to then go, oh, I'll use it on your behalf to bring the data together, to surveil on you, share the different departmental data with other departments because of your digital passport, and then make decisions in our favor because we've implemented the digital ID. There's so many kind of variables to get to that dystopia.
The way you are describing it, yes, I think it would be great, but from what I've seen and read and heard, that is not what the current government is proposing. The current government is proposing to actually have all the data, in one place. That's how is being put forward. Obviously, the catalyst or the trigger for this is to control immigration. Nobody believes that is the case. But anyway, let's leave that to one side. I don't want to get into that. But they want to base these, or the solution for this digital ID, based on the same solution that they're using for the single sign-on, which it's broken already. Do you see what I mean? It's not robust. They have used good, friendly hackers to hack the system. They could hack it with no issues. The team, which is in Romania, didn't even realize that they've been hacked. The team in Romania is working on unsecure desktop. The team are not even, security cleared. So this is what I mean by the lack of maturity. I don't mean that the people working in the government are malicious or do not have moral or ethics, the same level as us. All I'm saying is that they lack awareness. You see what I mean? In that sense, that level of maturity, that's what I meant. I think you're saying there's not necessarily enough due diligence being put into the safeguards around such a scheme or such schemes before it's implemented. It's down to the Jurassic Park line. We didn't stop to think whether or not we should do it because we're too that's not the right line. We're too concerned on whether or not we could. We didn't stop to think of whether or not we should. And that's the thing. I mean, maybe there aren't the right people in those rooms having the conversations to say we need the white hat hackers to actually prove this can't be accessed in the wrong way or by the wrong people and make sure it's robust enough.
So, there's those balances in all those digital platforms,
Yes.
generally, have they done what's known as penetration testing or vulnerability scanning? Where are the gaps and the vulnerabilities in the
Yes.
security and the technology? So, no, I completely agree. And if there's, history doesn't always mean the future is the same as what's gone in the past
Of course.
with
Yeah.
systems like this.
I mean,
But,
one
if
would
there is
think.
a
One would think that we've learned, from what happened, in sort of in the Nazi, and we're not going to repeat it. But I think the fear is there, and I think, at the moment we've had quite a few breaches, caused by the public bodies. Just the MOD, the same department, the MOD, caused two breaches in the space of 2 years. One of which was the Afghanistan one. So it's, the point is that they haven't demonstrated that they are mature with their, data. Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean.
yeah.
So I think, there is a future for the digital ID. I just don't think that it's now. We need to get the government, the board, the various department and civil servant of the government to get to a higher maturity level with regards to data in order to implement that. Then it
Yeah.
would work.
You need to get to a level of what's known as to get a social license. Social license being the people realizing the benefit and saying, actually, we do want this and we do want it in the right way. And I really see the accessibility and awareness and transparency that people would have with how their data is used by government that they don't currently have now. Now, you may think that we do, and you're right to cite breaches in different governmental departments, but you would of course hope that it isn't necessarily the same people causing those breaches that are building up the systems. But then you have to ask, who built the system that caused the breach in the first place? And hopefully those people that build the systems aren't building this system, or they've learned from it and are putting those learnings into the new digital systems. There are, I think, smart enough people in there to design it in the right way. Now, the problem here is, there are financial constraints in government constantly, and to build, I don't think it's the data lake, the big data set of all government data being brought together in that way. I think that's too expensive. I don't think that would be on an agenda where cost saving is pretty high on that agenda. But I do think a federated access model where the data stays in the location, and then if you have the key to ask the questions of the data, where is it, who's accessed it, why, but that stays in the location with the data and just gives you the answer. That doesn't mean it's all coming together in a centralized location that can necessarily be used in surveillance terms or the wrong things. And that's the thing, we're back down to what is the transparency of use of that data in the first place that you have? You may know that you've got your health records, and if you've been to prison, you've got your prison records. If you've been arrested, you've got those. If you've been in the care system, there's those. They're all different. They're all in different locations.
Yes.
But then what needs to happen is what is the best outcome from a little bit of that information coming together and going like, okay, this will, an answer to this question, I don't know what the question is, answer to this question will actually benefit someone rather than benefit the state. And I think that's where the balance really has to be. But I see digital IDs as making it easier for departments to deliver benefits and services to people rather than less. And that's what we don't see. And coming back to the idea of, the European identity cards, which have been around for many, many years, they're absolutely a handoff with a code that says, is Cristina allowed to have access to the health records in this way? So it's like, yes, because you're showing us the digital ID. we do use passports, we do use driver's licenses, we do use birth certificates in the UK. Why not have one that is similar to the ID card and go, well, rather than me have to dig out three things or something from somewhere, we all have this one code that we can use to get access to it. And so it is essentially the same thing. I think the way it needs to land with the public may not necessarily be conveyed correctly. The story may not have been told well, but there is a story there that needs to be told, and people need to understand it could be a benefit. Could be, and again, done in the right way, and checks and balances, and the right people in those conversations, but all transparent. Having people like Big Brother Watch, the Open Rights Group, Good Law Project, all those kinds of, Open Democracy, all those kinds of organizations actually being directly in at the table, but not just to say no.
No, they
that's the hard bit.
Yes, it's to be open-minded. It's, voice your concerns, list them down, let's address them, do you know what I mean? But then also let's be open-minded to find a solution that addresses those risks or those concerns, so that in a way that we can achieve the outcome without, to obtain the benefit for the human, for the individual, without, putting them in danger. Basically, because there is references at the minute to the Chinese, to the Estonian, to the India digital ID solutions, and I don't think they've had this open discussion, which is what you mentioned, because already they've had situations where Estonians their system got hacked, and I think it was over 3,700 individuals were impacted, or card, because they've got card and the digital element, do you know what I mean? So it's like you can access through the phone, but also you got the cards, so you got the middleware in the middle, so to speak. So in India, some individuals were refused healthcare because their record show, through the digital ID, show that they their HIV AIDS status. So it's to ensure that none of these things happens. Do you see what I mean? It's so this is what I mean by we should be open to put on the table all of the concerns and learn from other people that experienced it, and sort of say, right, how do we fix this? How do we fix that? How do we prevent that? Yeah,
I think there are problems if the digital ID if it's used, then it becomes an identifier for a government department for something else. It's like suddenly you're using the ID, oh, there's this thing, therefore I'm going to discriminate against you because there's a flag up against your digital ID.
Yes.
I think it should remain siloed, but it should also still be the identifier or the code to say it is you and you are allowed to use the data or have access to it. So that kind of thing. But it shouldn't necessarily have, it's going to show a HIV status to, pick up some post.
Yes.
The
way I'm envisioning it is, think of back in the 70s, I think, 80s, where you had, those metal filing cabinets with the key at the top. So it's almost what you're saying is that the digital ID is the key that opens, but then each drawers has the different department where your data is, but they don't get mixed up. So correct. I think that's how I'm envisioning it, the way you're describing it, and I think that it's the appropriate way to do it, rather than the digital ID being the entire data, if that makes sense.
I completely agree. It's got to be siloed from each other, and you can't have, any flags that are raised because of use if it's in a different system. You can't have a red flag over here affecting something over here, which is completely unrelated.
Yes.
And that's where that's the problem, isn't it? Because when something does need to be related, even though they're between databases, let's cite a problem. I've got a problem this could cause if it goes wrong. The whole idea of your digital ID could then mean, oh, we are looking at what income you have in your bank account, and then we work out whether or not we think there's been a fraudulent claiming of benefits, or some nefarious activity. That's where it could go wrong. But then, do we truly know what different government departments share with each other now? Because that is how our system works. And is that right? And so it does have to be, it's lock and key, and you use it to get access to one part of that, and it doesn't necessarily pull over a flag from another system, another department.
Yes.
Unless it's already done. And then we need to know why. And we get round to, why didn't we know why already? It's like, well, yeah, why didn't you know why already? The digital ID can unlock that.
Yes.
And can then have that level of transparency where we have far more ability to know what's done with our data than we do now. And that's massively beneficial, I think. But it does have to have that lock and key model. I agree.
Yes, because at the minute, we don't know what data they go about. We've got an idea, but they could have more than what we think they have, but also what they do with it. We don't know.
Yeah.
Well, instead, what you're suggesting is that by having the key to the locking cabinet, we can actually go through those files and say, why have you got, do you know what I mean? And so pure transparency, basically. So, but is that the solution that the government is proposing? Because that's not what I'm hearing from the government.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, I don't think there's. So I know if I said I don't think there's enough information out there, there will be somewhere on some government website enough information out there that hasn't been read. Now, the way these things are sold, and any policy is a sale to allow it to happen, people to be happy with it. I think the sale has been wrong of the idea. Is it the way that I'm thinking it could be so beneficial? Well, I hope so. I don't know. And I also don't think that the detractors of this know either. And so they just really see the bigger, scary dystopian picture without getting into the detail and the nuance. So you've got it being sold in the wrong way, or the media has a part in that sale, unfortunately, and they do like to twist up that sale so we think something completely differently. And so we may have lost the public at some stage of this, but the public can be regained, and it can be more quickly. And so it is about communication. Do we know the actual hard facts of what's being talked about in those closed rooms? No. Do we hope it's in the right way and is the way we're talking about it? Yes, of course there's hope. Could it be? Yeah. Do we know? No.
No, yeah. And I mean, and you're right in terms of, the communication is important, how you sell it, because I think they've not sold it properly, because that has actually led to almost 3 million signature for the petition against the digital ID. And Parliament debated it for 4 hours. I haven't watched the whole video a few days ago. I only watched the first half an hour. But that is probably what has happened. Do you know what I mean? If the solution that the government is proposing is, the locking cabinet, which is what we described, they're not sold it properly, and that's what's happened.
Yeah. And what be, let's think of this in a technological way as well. What if every use of that data was recorded in an immutable log, so a log that can't be changed, like a blockchain type recording, which means that a use will be recorded multiple times in multiple places. So if then that's tampered with or used in the wrong way, a security flag pops up, and maybe that security flag can be for the for the person who has the ID. Oh, by the way, something's gone wrong. A department has used your data in the wrong way.
Yes.
Call this number, and we'll send in the government police to the government departments, or whatever that needs to look like. So, there are technical means. It just takes a bit of thought and money and investment. It's whether or not that level of investment to get this really correct is something that the current government is willing to put money into. I hope they do, but again, I think the concerns are the government isn't necessarily putting so much money into something like this. It may not be robust enough and may have those pitfalls that everybody's really concerned about. And so where's the balance here? It may be fine. It may just be that digital handshake, and I think they're smart enough to do that. I really do.
I love your positiveness and your optimism.
You have to.
I'm not sure I trust the government, any government. I'm not a political person, but any government to do it right, not at this stage, given what has already happened, given the fragility of the current system of the single sign-on. I don't think they are mature enough, as I said, any government, to be able to do this. Maybe in years to come, but we need a strong ICO, which we currently don't have. Do you know what I mean? We need, governments and the civil servant really aware and really, understanding, the data is about an individual and what harms could come to them. I've referred earlier to the two MODs breaches from the same department. It might not be the same person, but it was the same department, and in both instances it was a human error. It wasn't the system. So there is that lack of maturity with regards to data, to understanding it, and the responsibility.
Yeah, I hear you there. I mean, you've almost got to kind of really take a look at the government departments, because they're massive corporations, enormous, like absolutely enormous corporations.
Yes.
In their own right.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have weak links, but you're also gonna have kind of, I think they can. I think it is possible. I think technologically it's possible. I think it can be mature enough. Whether it will be or not is yet to be discovered, but I think it is possible. I think they can do it.
Yeah. Okay. Love it, James. Anyway, thank you for such a wonderful discussion. I really, really enjoyed it, and thank you for being a wonderful guest. Would you like to share your contact details, or how the audience can get in touch with you should they wish to do so?
Yeah, over LinkedIn is where you'll find me. Happy to put this into the share that. Reach out, say hello over LinkedIn. Okay, brilliant. So just look for James Robson. Excellent. Yeah. And if you would like to get in touch with me, I can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for CVG Solutions, or alternatively, you can email me at info@cvgsolutions.co.uk, or the website. So cvgsolutions.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening.